Hey everybody, it's Brian again. We're back in the shop working on the rear floor of the CJ3B body. And this is a sheet of 14 gauge steel. I'm using a heavier floor because the welder is going to be so heavy on it. And if you remember from the last time we looked at the 3B, the toolbox is deleted out of the body, and there's brackets under the floor right to the frame to support the welder, and the welder takes up quite a bit of the floor. So that's why we're going so heavy. And we're probably going to delete the rear seat mounts, and we may delete the top bow pockets that are in the floor because the welder is going to cover all that up. So it's kind of laid out now with some soapstone. I think you can see the best, the white. The beads are 4 inches on center, and we'll put those in with the pullmax. And on these 4 beads on the passenger side of the Jeep, they're shorter. They usually go shorter because the toolbox, this is our bend line, and the toolbox will lap on there. But because there's no toolbox, we're going to run all the beads right to, they're going to be the same. All 8 beads are going to be the same. So we're going to get set up in the pullmax with some dies to put the beads in. And these beads are different than the wheelhouses are. So I'll show those to you and get the panel over to the pullmax, and we'll start putting the beads in. Okay, here we are, finally getting to that rear floor. It's been a while, but we're going to get to it today. I think you can see the white lines showing up on there. I tried some red lines and some scribe, but I think you could kind of see that. This edge here is going to get bent down 3/4. So our first bead is going to come in from this edge 4 3/4, and then the beads are spaced 4 inches on center. And again, that's where that toolbox, the bend line is right there, and then your beads would stop here. So the right side 4 would be shorter than the other ones for the toolbox to lap on. But we're gonna run all of them full distance because this welder Jeep, it doesn't have a toolbox. And again, just a reminder, we're making this floor out of 14 gauge, super heavy, because that welder is so heavy, and the other floor kind of got wrinkled up in there. So like we did with the wheelhouses, we're going to do this in the pullmax. And there's the die. Now that's a floor die, and that's quite a bit different than the wheelhouse die. And you can see I've got just about every different floor and wheelhouse die there is. But there's a lot of folks making floors out there, but they're using a generic bead, and it doesn't look right, and you can spot it from a mile away if you're doing an accurate restoration. If you're not doing it real accurate, I guess it doesn't matter, but they do look kind of unsightly, and that's an exact duplicate of what we need. So I'm going to go over to the bench and show you what that looks like after we run a piece through. Okay, here's a piece of 14 gauge I ran through there, and there is the shape of the bead. I think you can see that okay. That's what it looks like. It's a little flat on top, and that's an exact copy. And because this one has the welder in it, and there's no chance for a back seat ever going in it, I'm not going to put those pockets in there. But let me show you a couple pictures of what a floor, an original floor, looks like when I do it out 18 gauge. There's a photo of one I did not long ago, and you could see the pockets in the front where the footman loops go for the half top. And maybe you can see this one a little better. There's one with the wheelhouses on it. And for the back seat, it's got those 2 little areas where the feet of the back seat go under. But I think you can maybe zero in on that. All those pockets I hand hammer in there. There's 5 different ones there, and I hammer those in. But on the 14 gauge, I'm not going to be able to do that, and I don't want to do it because it'll just collect a lot of junk. So that's what one looks like. That's an 18 gauge floor. The hat channel spot welded on there. There it is with the wheelhouses on it. Those lights are really killing us here, but sending shadows. But This one's going to be a little bit heavier. Like I say, 14 gauge is going to be 4 hat channels in there. And we'll get to the hat channels. They're sitting over there, but we'll get to those after we make the floor. And I'll get the pullmax set up right now. We'll start running our first bead. Okay, that's the first step of the first bead. It's a little tricky handling a big piece like that, and I kind of got the camera in the way. I don't have anybody filming today, but we'll set the next step down and put the bead in full size. Okay, there's the first bead. I hope you're able to see it all right. 14 gauge is kind of a bear, so we're going low and slow. And you see a few marks here on the side. That's just because this is a piece of hot rolled. I don't normally use hot rolled, but that's all my supplier had, so that's what we're stuck with this time. We'll clean it all off before we do any other work to it, but it leaves a little. It looks like it's marking the metal up real bad all in through here, but it's really not. It's just a hot rolled junk coming off there. So let me get this air stopped and I'll be right back with you. Okay, now as you can see, if you watch that wheelhouse video, you can see our end here. It's got a little crazy here. And down this end, it's going to do the same thing. And again, if you watch that other video, you'll see we're going to round this out with that end finishing die right there and right down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the shrinker, in the kick shrinker, and we're going to get this back in shape. Panel's going to get a little wild on us, a little crazy. It's 14 gauge and it's tough to shape, but it's going to get a little crazy. I'll show you how we straighten it out as we go. Now every time we take a step, we're going to move this. We're going to move this fence. I got a little ledge here to support the panel. We're going to move this fence 4 inches at a shot. So from center to center to center, all the way down is 4 inches. So it's just going to be more repetition. So I'm going to get all the beads in there. We'll come back. I'll show you the ends going in again. And then we'll start talking about putting some hat channel in there and make this a nice rigid floor. And we'll trim the ends up and cut for the the rear floor riser and stuff like that. I got that cut out and ready to go. But let me get the beads in. Camera battery's going to hell, so I got to charge that. I'll be back with you when the beads are in, and we'll get ready for folding and stuff. Alright, see you in a bit. Okay, I'm back here when and I've got all the beads in. There's 8 beads in there. We ran them all the same length. And this is the front of the panel. And you can see I've got the ends put in. I'll get you in on one of those. Okay, that's what the end looks like when it's finished. And I've got the front finished. And in this area here you could see some little shrink marks. I shrunk all the puckers down. And it started out looking like this end. See, that end's a little crazy right now. And I haven't put the ends in it yet. So let me get that turned around for you. Okay, that's what the bead looks like before I put the ends on it. And you can see it's out of shape. That 14 gauge was tough to put through there. Tough to straighten out again, but we'll get it. So there's going to be basically a rounded portion to that black line. Then we'll stick this in the kick shrinker. We'll straighten it out, and that'll flatten out like the front. You can see the front's laying down real nice. And then we may have to come in on some of the beads and planish them out. We'll do a high-speed planish on those to get them a little straighter. You can see, I think you can see there's a little bow in that one. The panel was just, it was kind of too heavy for me to handle alone, and it, just by the weight of itself, beads got a little distorted. But we'll straighten that out, and I'll show you how I get the beads in there, or the ends of the beads again. If you remember from the wheelhouse, we use this die right here, and that's set up in the pullmax right now. And I think if you can see, the top is rounded out. That puts the perfect end on it. And because this is 14 gauge, and because it's a deep bead, we're really going to set that down hard. And you'll see how that goes once I start doing it. But I got the fence set up, and I got these put in parallel with the machine. So we just run the end right against this fence, and all the ends of them come out nice and even. So I'll get set up for that, and we'll get those ends finished up. I'll show you what that looks like next. Okay, we're set up for the bead ends, and I'll show you what that looks like, and you get an idea how to put the back beads in. Okay, got the pullmax running, and I'm just going to take a scrap piece of 14 gauge. It doesn't have a bead in it, but I'll show you what the die does to the end there. I got the fence set up here so that all our beads are going to end at the same place on the end of the panel. And you see they're set up long ways, so I'll just run the sheet against that and put the ends in. This is what it's going to look like. Okay, now if there was a bead in here, it wouldn't be wrinkly like that, but basically that's what it does to the panel. Just finishes the end off nice like that. So I'll get set up and do the whole sheet like that. Okay, there's a shot of the end finished, and this is the back section of the floor. So there's a little bit more material right here. We'll bend that over 3/4. And then the tailgate surround will lap on that right about there. So that's why it's a little more in the front. So that's how the ends go in. And we've got our 8 beads in there. So we'll do a little bit of shrinking right in this area. Right at the end of each bead, we'll put that in the kick shrinker like I did the front. I showed you how that came out, and we'll put that in the kick shrinker now, get that straightened out, and then we'll start putting the folds in it. Okay, I've just got a little sample piece here. This is that piece that we put the end bead in there, and if you look at it like that, you see it's bent, and that's how the whole panel looks right now. And it's easier for me to show you on a small piece what the kick shrinker is going to do, because that piece is kind of big and it's hard to set the camera up. But basically I'm going to stick it in there. Okay, I think you can see that. And we'll just give this a couple of shrinks. Get that adjusted. Okay. Okay, we'll give that a couple shrinks. Bring the material back together. And I think you can see what that does. That's starting to straighten that out. It was just curved and just a couple pumps on the pedal, and it's bringing that right back into shape. So that's basically what's going to happen on the whole end of that panel there. Is we're just going to go in there and just give it some light shrinks right up to the bead, and that's going to take care of the whole edge of that panel. And you can see that straightens it right out. So that's what I'm going to get set up and do now. And I think if I set the camera back a little bit, you'll be able to see how it works out. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's the piece. It's set on a stand, and the bead end is in the jaws of the kick shrinker. And I actually got to work it from the side because it's such a big piece. But we're just going to give that a couple shrinks. Loosen up on that. Send it down to the next bead. Okay, we're just going to do that the whole way down, and that'll start to flatten the sheet out for us. Try and pull it out a little bit for you. Okay, that's flattening that area right out at the end of the bead for us. So it's getting kind of awkward, but I'll do each bead, and then I'll show you what it looks like back at the bench. Okay, that's what it looks like when it comes off of the shrinker. Still got a little bit of a pucker right on that one, but not too bad. And panel's looking okay. We've got a little bit of straightening out to do, but we still got to final planish all these beads. And I'm going to wait until I get somebody here in the shop to help me hold it, because it's kind of a heavy panel. That 14 gauges doesn't seem like it's that much thicker, but this piece is 74 thousandths thick, and it does get kind of heavy, especially running it through the pullmax. So I'm going to wait till somebody else comes in the shop to hold the other end, and we get these beads nice and straight and planished out real good. So we'll show you that next time. We'll bend the edges around, and we'll talk about the hat channel. I make a little bit different hat channel for these guys, but I'll show you that next time, and I'll show you a couple different ways to get the hat channel spot welded in there, and show you some ideas for strengthening it up. Like I say, that heavy welder is going to be on this floor because this is for that welder Jeep, so we want to make it as strong as we can. We don't want it to be dipping in between the hat channel. So I'm going to put a few extra hat channels in there, and show you the final beads all planished out. We'll get this bent up to size, and that'll be next time. Okay, feel free to subscribe or hit the like button or comment. Let me know how you think the series is going, and if there's anything specific you want to see, just give a shout. Okay, we'll see you next time.